Hello everyone and welcome to the tutorial on how you can cartoon yourself and make artworks like this, or like this. And these are all on my Instagram, and these are things that I know a lot of you have been seeing lately and you've been asking for a tutorial. Or here it is. This is going to be a tutorial on how to do it on your phone. So this is how I first got into art. Before I had an iPad, I was drawing cartoons for my friends on my phone, and then I got more and more skillful into what I'm able to do today. This is going to be a tutorial that teaches you skills. I know with the popularity of the new AI art filters and even AI filters, a lot of people want, a quick way to make something like this. But this way, you're going to learn a skill that you can take with you, and you're going to feel really fulfilled when you're able to make these things. So let's get right into it. So our steps are going to be: 1, understanding layers. 2, we are going to understand how to use our pictures as references. Then 3, we'll go into line art. 4, we're going to do coloring. 5, we're going to start our shading and highlights. And then 6, which is the last step, is we're going to add shadows for our characters. So let's do it. Okay, but real quick before we get started, I'm going to say that I'm doing this on my phone with my finger, and I'm only doing that for you guys to show that anyone can do it. If you don't have a stylus and you're really using your finger, then it's possible. But I would recommend you guys get a stylus. They have really cheap ones on Amazon for like $3, $4, or you can go to Walmart. It'll make it a lot easier to actually draw on your phone than using your finger. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this first part on the iPad just because it's easier for me. So say I draw a pink triangle on the first layer, a purple circle on the second layer, and then a light teal square on the third layer. So on the top is 3, 2, then 1. You see? So whatever on the top of your layers panel is going to appear in the top on the artwork. So if I were to take this teal square and move it around and move it on top of the circle, then it will show to be on top. And then this pink triangle will show to be on the bottom of the circle. And then you can move around your layers in the layers panel and mess with how things are oriented. And then also mess with your opacity where you can see through things. So the triangle will be low opacity. You can still see the circle even though it's above it. This is all you really need to know how to cartoon. It's just how to orient this stuff so that you can trace. So then you'll go to your photos gallery and then pick out the photos you want. And I have like saturated photos because cartoons usually have vibrant colors, so that's one of the ones I'm going to use. And then I'm going to bring it to the app. We're going to use Autodesk Sketchbook because that's on the iPhone and the Android, so anyone can access it. Then you can click the plus sign, then new from image, and then import photo, and that will take you to your photo gallery where you'll choose the base photo, not the one that you're going to cartoon, just the one that's going to stay normal. And then from there, you click OK, and then the second top right button, you'll click the layers panel, and then click your layer and turn down the opacity with that bar. You can add another layer, click the plus sign, and for some reason, I don't see an add photo from gallery. So what we'll do is go back to the photos, go to the photo that you want to cartoon, hit those little 3 dots and click copy, and then go back to the app, go back to the layers panel, click the empty layer that's on top, and click paste in there, and click the check. And now you have 2 photos in there. You can turn down the opacity on this one, and then from there, you'll go to that box that has the 9 little boxes in it. That's the button, and you'll click the transform, which is the 4 arrows pointed away from each other, and then you'll put it in the spot you want. And for me, I wanted to be kind of symmetrical, so I put it like really right on the other side with the same size as my body. And from there, you're ready to start adding your black lines, and this is going to be super important for making it a cartoon. So before you do anything, add another layer. Make sure you do that. You do not want to draw any of your lines on the same layers that you just put down. You'll have to restart, and it wouldn't work later in the future, and you'll see why soon. So, the brushes, you can click that pencil, pen icon that's up there, and they got plenty of brushes. But I'm going to stick with the Dream Brush. You can scroll down and find that one. It's pretty simple. It's a nice solid line to use. And remember, I'm on that layer that's above these two layers now. You can get rid of that other layer if you don't want to see it. It can be distracting you. And now, let's just start tracing exactly tracing, and you can use the undo as you need to. I use undo a lot, especially on a phone. I'm pretty rusty. I don't really use the phone that much. I haven't been using the phone for a while. I really draw mostly on my iPad. But see, I'm just following lines now. And this part is very straightforward. You want to play with the size, which you can do on the side. And then I'm just tracing. You want to be precise. Try to get the lines as nice as possible. But also, you don't even have to trace every line because cartoons are usually, simpler than real life. And as you can see, I'm messing with my lines to see how thick I want it until I was getting something that I was happy with. And this was a good length that I was happy with. So I started doing the whole rest of my body. And when you're doing the face, I'm going to show you on the iPad too, right here, because it has to be very precise if you want it to look like you. And this is the back that I'm showing you on my phone. So let me show you the front on my iPad. So when drawing thick lines on a face that doesn't have thick lines, because no face has thick lines in real life, you have to be very precise on how you're drawing this. So when it comes to the eyebrows, you can trace those exactly because those are a little thicker. But things like the eyes, you want to go like a line or a curved line above it, and then the curve below it should kind of follow the arc of the eye. And then you want to keep the pupils around the same spot. When it comes to the nostrils, you can trace right inside the nostrils and then outside of the nose lines, not inside. So when it comes to the lips, you can trace exactly on the middle of the lip and then above the top lip and a little below the bottom lip. And then you trace the face like that perfectly if you do that every time, and your face will still look like whoever you're trying to clone. So I got back to the rest of the artwork, started finishing all these lines. Here you can be right on the line. You could be close to as possible. And as you learn more in the future, you can learn that you can you don't have to trace it right on exactly because cartoons are not going to be perfect. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to trace it right on the lines. And then you can add your little details. You don't have to because it's a cartoon, but then you will be ready to color once all your lines are in. Before you color, the first thing you're going to need to do is add a new layer. You can do that by going to the second reference layer and clicking the plus, and it has to be a new layer. And then you'll go to your color picker in the colors panel, and then you'll find your color that you need right now. So go to your color picker, and you don't want it too dark of your version of your skin. You don't want too light, like where the veins are. You want like a middle tone. So it's pretty accurate to your actual skin color or whoever you're drawing. And then you'll start filling in all this color, and it's going to be below the layer, so that's why it's now below your line layer. Fill in your color, and once you have everything filled all the way around, you can hit that box again, and then click fill, and you can double tap between all your free spaces. See fill, and then double tap. And then it's filled up. and then I can do things like pick up the genes. But you can do it also by holding on the screen. You don't have to go to the colors panel and click the colors picker. So then I'm outlining this real quick, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to probably just fill it in. And I was fixing those little blemishes at the hand that I messed up. But hold on, the jeans right now, they're very solid, but what about the people who are going to want some texture in their jeans, like how I have actually? So, for something very simple, we can pick up a darker color in the jeans, go to the airbrush tool, like you see me selected, and you can just lightly touch around in there with, and you can mess around with the size of your brush, and now it kind of gives a little fade, and that's pretty cool of a effect. So I'm gonna keep it like that, and then I'm gonna keep filling in, picking up the color of the jersey now, filling in the jersey. But I have to go back to Dream Brush first before I do that. Fill up the jersey, and then ends up filled in. Now I'm going to show you the beauty of using layers and opacity in a way that you can trace any artwork no matter how good your hand is. So I picked up the color, the red color from the hat, and I started tracing it inside these black lines of my artwork, and then I filled it. And then I added a new layer right on top of that layer, and I turned that layers off by clicking the little eyeball. And you see that little white right there? It's usually on any fitted hat like that, but I wasn't going to trace that little light. So on that new layer that I just made that's on top of the red hat, I added the light. And I added a little black line here too. I might keep it, but I might not. And now I've precisely colored this hat and made it into a cartoon by tracing. I didn't have to do any guessing, and I didn't have to have any extra knowledge of that artwork. So, once you have everything filled in, you want to do things like you want to trace the things on your clothing so that they still pop out. But also, you can also remember when you're coloring, you don't have to pick up every color, like blacks and whites. You don't have to pick every color up. Like when I'm putting in this white jersey right here, if I were to pick it up, it would probably have given me like an off white or like a gray, which that's not really what we want for a cartoon. We want the cartoon to have extreme colors, extreme blacks, extreme reds, extreme whites. So then I was just fixing up some of the blemishes that I had in there myself. But if you did this all the right way, then you shouldn't have any. I was just jumping around steps for you guys. So you have all your things colored in now with solid colors, and now it's time to start shading. And I can show you a couple of methods of shading that can really change how you're able to make artwork. And this is still by tracing. So, my first method, I like to call it a rough copy. Don't do that. What you're going to do is pick up the darker color from whatever you were at. So, right here, it's the hat. So, I picked up the darker color. I saw where it was going to be darker. So, I'm going to do like a rough copy of that shadow. And this makes for a really cartoony look because it's not exact at all, but it's also a little harder to do this. So I have another method for you that's even easier, but it is not as cartoony, but you can still make it that way. So as you can see, I turn off the visibility of the color layer, and then I turn it back on, and then I color it how I want it. This next method makes it so that anyone can do it. So I added another layer above my color layer and then turn off the color layer with the eye. From there, you You can direct copy. You can pick up the darker the color that was on your face, and then you can directly copy where you saw that it was darker. You can trace anywhere that you see where it's dark. So now let's go to the hands. So it looks like kind of where the knuckle is, on the bottom part of the knuckle and the outside of the knuckle. It seems like maybe that needs to be darker. So we'll go over those areas, and we're directly copying shadows now. Now we're tracing shadows. This is something that everyone wasn't able to do before. So now anyone can really make art like this when you can trace the the lines, you can fill in the colors, and then you can trace the shadows and then the highlights, which I'm about to show you as well. This can still be a little tedious, but if you're just following and tracing the right way, you should not mess up and you should end up with something that you really like. And I'm just making sure I get all the darker spots. And then once I have that and I'm confident with how it looks, I turn back on my original color layer. And boom, there it is. And if I really wanted to, I can turn down the opacity of this shadow layer and make the shadow just as dark as I wanted it to. And all this is done by the power of tracing. And then you can add a layer again, and you can do the same concept but with lighter colors now. And you can give this artwork some highlights. Another way that I would like to add some more shadows is through the jeans, because I think that would add a lot of personality to the photo. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn down the opacity. I'm going to direct copy the jeans on a new black layer. And I'm just directly copying all the shadows that I see. And it's going to give a real cool effect once I turn down the opacity. Click in all the shadows, directly copying them all. Turns down the opacity. Turn down, up, where you want it to be. And then you just traced a whole bunch of shadows. So now you are done with that part of the shading. So now when you're done directly copying the shading, the darker parts, then we'll directly copy the highlights now. So it'll be the same thing. You'll pick up the lighter colors that are in the jeans or wherever in the area that you're trying to add highlights to. And then you'll turn down the opacity on your reference layer. And then you can start directly copying where you see the areas lighter. Okay, and this is the same concept that we use to color in the hat, where we'll turn off the layer that's below. So we'll turn off the color layer and add another layer on top of it. And that layer right here is the highlights. And then you're just following the highlights. As you can see, it doesn't have to be exact. And that's what makes it more like a cartoon. And you'll learn that as you keep going over time. But for now, you can just copy it exactly how you see it. And then I could turn off the background if I wanted to and have a blank background, but I'm not going to do that because I'm cloning. So I'm going to turn down the visibility of that layer. And now that I have everything colored, you can keep your background from your reference layer off and turn on the background for the base layer, the one that you didn't want to clone. And then I'm just coloring in my extra scraps by picking up the color that I had highlighted. You have to make sure everything is colored in. Everything must be colored in. I've seen a lot of people when they start, even when I started, I would do it all the time. I'll miss some areas that were not colored in, but it's about being tedious. All right, so then I can take my highlights layer now, and then I can go to the layers panel, click on that layer, and click merge, and that'll merge it down into the colors. And now your color layer is one color layer. Everything is done. But see, now we have shadows on our actual guy because there's shadows in real life, but there's no shadows in our cartoon yet. But we can add those. So you'll add a new layer, and then I like to use the flow airbrush for this. I think flow airbrush. It's in basics. So I'll go up to that flow airbrush, and then I'll go to the colors and make sure I have black selected. And then I'll just start adding in some shadows. And it doesn't matter really if you go too dark. What matters really is that the shadow fades out. Because what you can do then is mess with the opacity and get it to a level that you think it's pretty good. Alright, but the shadow that we're still missing is the shadow that the whole body's casting. So you'll duplicate your color layer and you'll duplicate your line layer and you'll merge two of those layers that you duplicated. And then you'll take that layer and put it below both your color and your line layer. And then from there, you'll click that little box, that little lock, that'll alpha lock your layer, that little lock that's in the layer panel. And then you can go to the flow brush or any big brush that you can use a solid one. And then you'll turn off your line layer and your color layer, and you can color your whole body in black. Your whole body colored in black on that third layer. So then you'll turn off your alpha lock layer, and then you can go to those three little boxes and click transform. And then you'll want to click on that icon on the top left for distort. And then you can distort with those handles how you need it to be to have a shadow. And you didn't really even have to draw that. You just colored over black over the layer and then turn it around and make it, you want it to be like the same angle that your other shadow's in. So when you kind of matched up that angle, you can drop it and then you can go back to your layers panel and then turn down the opacity on that. And then to it's around the same as your other shadow. And then boom, you're all done. I want to thank you guys for watching this video today, and let me know in the comments if you had any trouble with any parts of the video, and let me know if you want me to elaborate on any more specific parts in the video. I'm going to be doing a lot more cartooning, a lot more graphic art videos for you guys in the future. So the next video is going to be me showing you guys my full setup and how I do it on the iPad. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.